All right, and we are on the platform. It's time for Free Speech Fridays, brought to you by the Free Speech Union, fsu.nz. And God, have I learnt this week, they are the champions of free speech in New Zealand. They're standing up for you, for everyone on the internet, and they're standing up for the platform. If you want to find out more about what they do, go to fsu.nz. Our panellists this morning, I think they're perfect guests for this morning. James Meager MP, the Minister for the South Ireland. James, how are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, good. You cut out, Sean, but good to be here.
Okay, we've got you there, James. And David Cumin from the Israel Institute. David, are you also part of the Free Speech Union?
I am, yeah. Good morning, happy Friday.
Yeah, look, lovely to have you with us. As I said, perfect guests to have. James, are you back at home in the South Island?
I am sitting in my office in Timaru. I'm about to head out to a school called Opahi College to talk to some Year 7-8s about being an MP. So bless them, but it's going to be an interesting experience for them hearing about my experience with you today, Sean.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's been quite a week in Parliament too, and we haven't really had time to get into the old Jerry cracking down on the dress code and all the stuff around the Maori Party. Do you wear a suit and tie into Parliament?
Yeah, of course. It's a standard rule for us. We all wear ties when we're in the House. I actually think when you look around the chamber and you see the signs of the battlefields of men and women who have fought and died for us in this country and our right to speak freely in the House, I think we should show a bit of respect. So I do. And I think that should be an expectation of everyone else as well.
Never been tempted to throw on the old tea towel with the Green Party and chant from the river to the sea?
No, my tea towels are busy cleaning dishes. That's the only thing they're used for.
All right. Well, David, that kind of brings us to first topic this morning. And I have to admit, because I've been tied up with other issues that we're going to talk about later, significant developments in the Middle East. And who knows if it'll stick, but I'm going to say peace in Gaza. There's not. But the hostages, after more than 2 years, the Israeli hostages taken on October the 7th, the live ones are home, and we can hope that those who didn't make it will be home soon, David. That's massive for the world, and it's massive for people of the Jewish faith and for Israelis.
It certainly is. It's historic times, and once again, it's been Trump that's been behind a lot of the developments. The Abraham Accords, of course, were first, and now this truly historic, truly wonderful. And it has to be said, because nothing good in Judaism ever comes with a bad side, without a bad side, that it's come at a huge cost. There have been 951 soldiers who have been killed in battle, let alone the hostages that are not alive.
And we must not forget whether or not they were combatants or not, 60 to 70,000 at best estimate people in Gaza, right?
Correct. And the prisoners in Israeli jails who have been convicted of some heinous crimes have been released. And so I think your earlier statement about peace not being true peace is entirely right. There's a ceasefire for now. But of course, Hamas have already started executing Palestinians in the streets of Gaza, for which I have not heard a chant in the streets of New Zealand.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? James, I know you're a local MP, and to be a good local MP, you talk about local issues, and to be a good New Zealand MP, you talk about New Zealand issues. A certain segment of New Zealand's body politic, mainly the loony left, got incredibly invested in Gaza. Helen Clark couldn't shut up about it. John Minto was into it. But now that it's President Trump who's brought peace, it seems those people, those political players have all gone horribly quiet, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think we should actually, and it's a pleasure to be on with David today. I think he's a great advocate for the Jewish community here in New Zealand, so acknowledge his work. I agree. I think we should acknowledge the work of President Trump. I know he's not been thrilled with the actions on both sides of this conflict, and this is one of those areas where the USA shows that it is a leader in global politics and it can make a difference. Now, for us on the ground here, I know people will be frustrated that they think that our government hasn't been able to contribute as much, but if you see the position we play, we provide aid, we take a moderate, balanced approach to this, and we just support the ceasefire and the pathway to peace. I think that's the key thing. There is no peace at the moment, but there is a pathway ahead.
And boy, it makes Winston Peters' call, or the government you're a part of's call, James, at the UN just a few days prior, it makes that look like exactly the right call to have made.
It just shows that this is such a difficult issue that takes nuance and diplomacy. And I think the Foreign Minister's position on this on behalf of the government was the right one. And it showed that actually if we focus on what's important here, that is trying to get a ceasefire, trying to get those hostages home, trying to get aid into Gaza, that's the key things, and that's where we can help as a government.
Right, James. Look, I've got to say to both you, actually, and David, I do hope that peace too, or if you like, the quieting of the Mintos and the tea towel wearers, means that, and there is no doubt, David, there has been a rise in anti-Semitic, and I'm not going to call it anti-Jewish sentiment in New Zealand, discrimination against Jewish children at schools, and Jewish people and Israeli people in general in New Zealand has risen to pretty disgusting levels. Can we hope, is it too much to hope, guys, that that will stop? David?
I think we all hope that, just as most of the war in Gaza would end, and that's why there's been celebrations in Israel, but not so much from some of the people that have been calling for a ceasefire. Of course, we all hope that levels of hate in New Zealand drop, and fortunately the Jewish community has been at the forefront of that, as the Jewish community around the world is. It's not unique. Hopefully, yes, now with hopefully less focus on the Middle East, the number of incidents will drop. But that doesn't necessarily mean that hatred goes away. And that's going to take a concerted effort of leaders stepping up and being leaders.
Yeah. James, have you had any problems with this in your neck of the woods?
Look, there is a community here that is very passionate about this issue, and they've protested my office, and they have made repeated demands to meet with me on this issue. And I've said to them, the government's position is quite clear. We called for a ceasefire, we called for the return of hostages, and we called for aid into Gaza. And I'm very happy to meet with anyone in my electorate about the local issues that we can affect change on. But as far as a government position, that is it. And I want to just comment on this issue of rising anti-Semitism. I was fortunate to be in Brussels a couple of months ago for my sins, visiting the EU, and we walked past a synagogue, and there were those large concrete blocks outside it to stop vehicles crashing into it. And now this is a place where people go and worship. It's a place where they should feel safe. And that kind of temperature rising across the world just shows that we refuse to learn the lessons of the past, and we're going down that dark path again. So I'm hopeful that we can all take a chance to take a breath, come together on this, and actually recognise what's important, which is the safety of the children and the people of Israel and of Gaza.
All right, guys, what can Rent-A-Mob do next? Because it looks very much, blokes, like the climate change thing is absolutely collapsing. We have had Nestle pull out of the methane reduction thing around the world. We've had the collapse of the Net Zero International Banking Organisation. And here the government has revised downwards the methane emission targets for New Zealand. And in fact, we had Owen Jennings on yesterday, former Federated Farmers Head, saying we're already methane neutral in New Zealand. It seems to me that the climate change cult, David, is collapsing.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I haven't really been across this entirely. James would have a much better handle on it than I would. But it was fascinating to read that Oxford report and then to go and read the IPC comments on it, that they have been fiddling the numbers deliberately and knowingly because of politics. I think this is an issue where actually science and the truth is shining through eventually, but politics and power has been standing in the way.
We had Mike Trembeth, a New Zealand professor, Kevin Trembeth, who has contributed to the IPCC. He was on the platform on Monday, was it? Monday or last week? Tuesday of this week, saying, yes, the IPCC reports are not scientific predictions. They're designed to scare the world so we can change policies, James. They admit that that's their strategy.
I haven't seen that one, but what I think we could probably agree on, and David alluded to this, was as we improve the science of all this, we should be updating and reflecting what our policies are on it. And you're also seeing around the world, I think, a rebalancing of how catastrophic an event this is seen to be. When you've got, high-profile politicians saying this is the worst thing or a climate catastrophe, and then jumping on business class flights to the UK in order to promote themselves, I actually think that we need to have a bit of reality and a bit of context here. Look, we'll do our part, and we've updated the science on methane. I agree it's hard to see when you've got grass being grown, that going into an animal and it coming out as methane, how that's not cyclical. But we will do our best, and we will be a leader in a lot of areas, but probably not this one, because we are such a small component of the world's global emissions. It's important for our trade access that we do our part and that we are seen to be making progress towards our targets. And I think we're in the right space. Yeah,
but James, also maybe you can't be on, and I'm not insulting you. Maybe you can't be honest because you're a politician. Everyone kind of knows this is over. The grift is over, and it's just how the hell everyone gets out of it without looking like a complete idiot, isn't it, David?
Again, I think it's a case of politics and power standing in the way of science and truth. And my hope is that science and truth will come through, whichever way the cards fall eventually. But that's going to take a real concerted effort, and there are infrastructures in place, and there are, as James alluded to, trading agreements and other agreements in place that make it a very sticky mess. And that's politics, unfortunately. But what I truly hope is that science and truth eventually come through, and rather than the slogans and the activists taking power.
Yeah, that's a bloody good way to look at it. Guys, we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about things that James will be uncomfortable about.